Hello world of sim racing and welcome to Weird German, a streamer here in the sim racing community, and let's talk a little bit about the past F1 Grand Prix in Mexico. So a quite impressive win, quite impressive drive of Max Verstappen and a great performance of Red Bull Racing. Personally, I have been surprised by the pole position that was taken by Mercedes on Saturday evening. Well, Europeans evening. But even more surprised I have been on the bad Mercedes performance in the race then. So we don't even need to speak about Valtteri Bottas' performance because, he has been spun around by Ricciardo in turn 1, which effectively, nothing he could have done against it. But, the entire start and the entire situation that has led to this turn 1 incident. What shall I say? I mean, it became quite apparent that Valtteri Bottas is probably not the desire to help Mr. Hamilton with everything that he's got, right? So the start, I was sitting on my couch and I was like, you guys know I'm a Mercedes fan. And I was like, the worst that can happen is that Hamilton gets a tiny bit better start than Bottas and has to be side by side with him. And well, guess what would happen, right? The move of Verstappen around the outside into turn 1 is remarkable, though, despite I don't think it is as super mega great as everyone is making out of it. And here's my reasoning, and feel free to argue with me about that. But Verstappen has been on the racing line. Verstappen completely sacrificed the turn 2 apex for track position. Quite rightly so, was the right call. Verstappen was the only car to not be on the dirt. And last but not least, Bottas is not the kind of guy that is fighting big time against someone anyway. So Bottas braking early, Hamilton on the very inside line. He has to make sure to somehow, not plow into Verstappen, so has to brake early as well. And in that regard, I mean, yes, Verstappen has broke super late and was a top maneuver on the brakes. But yet, I think he was on the best lane. As much as he was on the outside. But, he could widen up the entry. He could make a great angle for the apex. And carry so much more speed into the turn. And while still sacrificing the second apex. He got to the apex of turn 2, right on, already on the white line that kind of gaps the track, that makes the track go, separates between racing on track and off track. He sacrificed that turn 2, but for track position, so was a smart move, was something smart done. And well, from then on for Mercedes, the race has just turned from worse to catastrophic and really nightmare. The positives that needs to be taken away from this is that Hamilton somehow held on to the second place. I was quite surprised that he could in the end, because that Red Bull, they were freaking strong. Goodness me, the pace they had was astonishing. And let's face it, the 4/10 or the 3.5 we saw on Saturday in qualifying, that has not been the real gap anyway. In fact, I think Mercedes was just edging Red Bull on a single lap, maybe slightly leading over them. But, the long run pace on Friday already showed that Red Bull had the upper hand over the Mercedes. And then Mercedes is considerably looking strong on the hard tire, whilst not being in the medium. And like on the medium, the pace difference was from another level, and like even on the later stages and on the hards, like I think at some point the gap from Verstappen to Hamilton was 20 seconds, whereas after the pit stop it was 8 or 7. So quite some Red Bull performance, and I have to say, and I have to admit, even as a Mercedes supporter, I write this championship right off, right there. Because, and you know, I'm not underestimating Hamilton or the ability of Mercedes to strike back as strong as they possibly can. But I think the overall package and the wingman position of Red Bull is just so much stronger. If in doubt, they could probably even introduce AlphaTauri as being a wing team, so not just only a wingman. But I don't think they actually have to do that even. Whether they do it or not, I don't know. Like, that is political stuff. Who would have said, or who would tell us that Mercedes won't do it if they had the opportunity? So I'm not going to comment on that. But the overall package, Verstappen, Red Bull, Perez. Not sure if Perez had like a fan boost in Mexico, but it was remarkable that Perez had been a lot more closer lately to Verstappen in the qualifyings, and of course in the race never has been that far off anyway. So I think, looking also at the remaining tracks, I see that Brazil is surely a Red Bull track. So is Abu Dhabi. And with the Honda engine probably been more reliable. Like, we haven't seen any Honda hiccup this year, have we? Maybe one at AlphaTauri, but Mercedes broke down a couple of times. Maybe not with the main team, but then Bottas has already had 2 additional engine changes. So has Hamilton. And then McLaren broke down a couple of times with the Mercedes engine. Then I think Aston Martin and also Williams both had trouble and issues. Like, George Russell just changed the engine prior to qualifying on Saturday morning. So I think the Mercedes engine has a flaw, has a weakness, quite offensively. And, well, I mean, it's not like the engine is going to be the big deal, but what happens if one goes boom? Like, to be honest, in order to have chances for Hamilton being the champion in the end, I think if any engine had to go boom, it would need to be Max Verstappen's. And, well, at the current condition, I just don't see it happen. I just don't see it happen. It's just like Honda has done a pretty awesome job. They developed nice over the year. They developed nice between last year and this year. Like, effectively, the gap last year hasn't been as huge, but this year I would consider the Honda power unit to be just so close behind Mercedes. And I think that is, like, you know, the entire Red Bull package just got better. Obviously, the technical regulations that have cut in Mercedes more than Red Bull didn't help overall. But at the end of the day, I'd say Mercedes is a team capable of, like, you know, finding a way around it, which effectively they did to a certain extent. Yet, though, they were hurt a little bit more in the beginning of the season anyway. That said, though, you guys remember the discussion and the topic around the active Mercedes-Benz suspension in Istanbul? I've never heard of that again. Why? Like, if there was a track where I think it would have been worth putting the system in, it would have been clearly Mexico, and surely would be Brazil. Arguably, the Mercedes were running 347 top speed, straight line speed in qualifying, while Honda only reached 338 or 339 or so on Max Verstappen's car, I think. So roughly 10 kph difference. And then, Mexico has only really two high-speed turns. That is turn 9 and 11. And the rest is kind of braking zones and acceleration zones and whatnot. So that suspension of Mercedes that arguably given them the edge in Istanbul would have worked nicely. Especially since Istanbul, there is this turn 8. Like, it is proper duper high speed. If there is a suspension topic where the rear end kind of collapses and being pushed down, then you would have not want to run it in turn 8 anyway. However, it could still be quite likely that Mercedes had this system going, since their middle sector performance has been really, really bad. That said, though, obviously the Red Bull's strong area are the slow corners regardless, whereas Mercedes has usually been strong to medium high speed corners. But not much of them. But still, like, it was quite surprising to me that they were even so much slower in turn 8 to 11, which is the high speed part. Maybe the rake configuration that allowed the Red Bulls to grind those heavy, high, steep curbs and the anti-cut curbs to be found in turn 2 and turn 3. And even the higher curbs in turn 9 and 8. You've seen, like, Verstappen mounted that high-speed, medium high-speed turn curbs with the entire car. Like, his outside tires have been on the curb, whereas the inside tires actually were off track. So I think I saw no other car doing it that tremendously. So they had their advantage regardless, and I'm pretty sure they will have their advantage as well for Bahrain, not Bahrain, for Brazil. Looking into the new track though, I think, is it Saudi Arabia? I think it's Saudi Arabia. I mean, that's a big question mark anyway. Looking at the track map, you can't really judge, is it a high speed or is it a medium speed or is it a low speed? Like, it's difficult to categorize those corners with just have not seen the actual track yet. I think this could be one of the only remaining shots though of Mercedes. I know people will talk Mercedes not dead yet and whatnot, but with all the drama Lewis Hamilton creates, I think that team radio after the race pretty much summed it up. Like, the voice, the facial expression, everything was like, so, okay, we're dead. Yeah? And I don't count Mercedes entirely dead, but the probability of a Red Bull championship in drivers is at 80%. And, well, if Bottas would have got 4th, I would have still given Mercedes a 50-50 chance on the team constructors. But right now I see it more like a 65-35 towards Red Bull, because they have the better package. Because Perez is now performing. And Bottas, as much as he is driving freely, driving without any pressure, driving on a better level than before, he's just missing something. Like the way he did the start, and I'm now going to comment on it anyway, but the way he has done the start is not what I would expect from a teammate in any case. And in any case, I mean, not even not fighting for the championship, but all they had to do with the position they were in would have to move left, box in Verstappen, and maybe get attacked on the inside by Perez. That would have been the worst case scenario, pulling over to the left, just boxing in Verstappen, giving him no room to do anything. And according to that rule that was released by Race Control beforehand, it was stated that it's not allowed to push someone off. But if you're clearly ahead and someone else is driving into behind you, like, that is not pushing someone off. So I understand why Toto Wolff was not amused, I'd say. But okay, that is the situation between Red Bull and Mercedes. Apart from that, I was a bit surprised the way this Q3 got decided in the end. Like, whoever told Tsunoda to, like, oh, there's Red Bull coming or whatever. What I don't get is there are so many ways to just get him out of the way. And the way it has been done, I think Perez sort of fucked up on his own because getting distracted. I don't think that was a yellow flag situation. But of course, with two cars off the track nearly having a collision, and then it could have been a yellow flag. I'm not sure if it was a yellow flag situation that either. But, I mean, personally, I don't think that was the smartest way to find a solution to the situation in this way. Like, I know everyone is trying to save mileage and so on, but what would have Tsunoda lost if he would have just drove a little quicker and already be off the pits when, or into the pits when Perez is entering the stadium section? So, whether there was like a wingman affair or a wing team affair in that area, yes or no, I think the overall situation could have been cleared up a little bit more smart. Next up, something that bugs my mind of this race is the way penalties have been dealt with. I'm pretty sure in other races we have seen, or we would have seen, a penalty for Daniel Ricciardo turning him around. Like Gasly, was it Gasly? Yes, Gasly on Alonso in Turkey. He got a penalty for that, despite he was squeezed in. Like, Gasly had no chance to go anywhere, and if anything, I would have said Alonso has turned a little bit in too much, kind of cut the way of Gasly and ran over his front wing. Racing incident. If anything, I would have called that as being race control. So, but judging that situation and now putting it on Ricciardo, who is actually locking up the brakes, so outbraking himself, and then touching Bottas, who effectively did the same effect that that Alonso did on Gasly in Turkey. How can you argue with that not even looking at it? Like, it was not, he looked at it and said no further action. It was not even noted. So, that in itself, I don't get. Like, was Ricciardo really penalized enough for not having a front wing anymore? Yeah, okay. But then, the ruling of Formula 1 says, we're looking at the incident itself and not its outcome. So, the outcome is not allowed to influence the judgments or the race stewards' decisions. Well, but then it clearly did, didn't it? Like, that makes no sense. And that is like, you know, as a fan, as an F1 enthusiast, I'm looking at this and I'm like, why is that not a penalty? Same with Perez. There was a clear instruction that when you leave wide in turn 1, you have to come back on the outside of turn 3, on the outside of the cone. Well, he cut turn 2 and came back on the track, on the inside of the cone, nearly driving into second place with it. Of course, he would have dropped down a little bit, let Lewis by and whatever. But still, like, either we do have that goddamn freaking rule that when you run wide, you have to go around the outside the cone, or you just leave it. As simple as that. And those are the things that I don't understand. And I'm not even biased to Mercedes at that point. Like, Bottas was responsible for his own tragedy race in that regard. Like, the way he got stuck behind Ricciardo in the end. Like, okay, the McLaren is probably the fastest straight line speed car in the entire grid. Yes, it has a Mercedes engine. And yes, I think they run a more efficient rear end than Mercedes does. Hence why they produce whatever downforce they produce, but still got a faster straight line speed. That said, though, I would still expect the Mercedes to overtake a McLaren. Because McLaren in itself, if you look at it, like McLaren has miraculously won a race this year. And miraculously because it was done on own performance. It was not like they sniffed up on some drama. No, it was Ricciardo taking the lead in the beginning and Norris fighting his way up. And they had a remarkable pace, where the chassis of them comes into play. As I said already, like it has the most straight line speed of any other car while still being whatever productive in terms of downforce. That car literally was an ace for Monza. That's why they won there. And effectively, they could have won even another time because, like, we all know what happened at Russia, right? And then that team that has been so strong occasionally or over the period of the season, like to me, they have been the third best car on the grid most of the time. They were significantly down on pace in Mexico. Like AlphaTauri was better, Ferrari was faster, even an Aston Martin was in P7. And then there was some other car. I think we had some Alpines ahead of them as well. Even I think was it Raikkonen that got 8th? I don't know how, but Norris obviously had a pan and started from the back, but still, I would expect the McLaren to still finish ahead of a Alfa Romeo in P8. So whatever happened with McLaren, there was a pace issue in Mexico, and then for God's sake, in a goddamn freaking Mercedes, you need to get past. That's my personal opinion on it. Obviously, disclaimer at this stage. It's very easy for me to sit in my ivory chair and have those opinions, But still, that is what I think it is, and that is what I think is the reality behind it. So, well, I think that pretty much sums it up. What else was a bit interesting? I think the MVP of this race was neither of the driver. It was Sergio Perez dead. Like, oh my goodness me. That guy was so lit after the finish. It was tremendously interesting. And then, looking into Germany right now with the corona crisis and the pandemic, like our numbers of infected people and people on the intensive care stations, on the hospitals, they skyrocket. Like they go up like a I don't know, like a stock being traded. And then you look over to Mexico. And I don't know what the situation is right there, but you look at what Formula One is doing in general. 300 some thousand people. Yes, it's an open building, no closed rooms and whatever, but the way people have run towards the podium ceremony, like the gates opened and like people that were, I don't know, running away from something ran towards that stage, and they were so like they were standing on top of each other literally. So I am quite surprised that this is allowed in the high-end bubble. Like Formula One has done that really well so far with all the corona policies. Also, how they conducted a full series and season last year. They've been an example to many sports event, whatever you want to call it, but you know what I mean. And I'm not sure if that is the right direction to go, But okay, time will tell. That were my findings for the Mexican Grand Prix. If you have appreciated the video, please make sure you hit the like button. And obviously, if you have a different opinion, put them down in the comment area below. We're going to get a discussion started. We're going to get questions and answers. And then hopefully you guys can watch out for Thursday when we have another report of this kind coming up. Don't worry, we're doing live streaming still. We're not turning this around into just a talk show. But right now, when racing is cooling down a little bit, this kind of format is, I think, what could be a different approach and what could still be interesting for you guys. So hope you have a good start into the week, and see you on Thursday when we talk about our planned upgrades for the racing rig. See you guys. Goodbye.